What's up, everyone? Welcome to Unmasked, where things are discovered, uncovered, brought to the light, and made known. I'm your host, Lamar Barrett, coming live to you from PG County, Maryland. If you're interested in finding out about the untold stories behind being a college coach, this is the show for you. Being a former assistant men's college basketball coach for 16 years, there are so many untold stories behind the scenes in the life of a college basketball coach. Now, let's unmask them. Today's guest is a longtime assistant coach, a former high school and grassroots coach, a bright basketball mind, an excellent talent evaluator. He's also a tremendous teacher, a future, and I've always thought this from the day that I met him, and I actually had a chance to coach against him in the same league. A guy I think can be a star who's going to be a head coach in his business. And he's I'll say the hometown. He's a Detroit native, Detroit, Michigan native, and he got a lot of family there, but he's bounced around, comes from a military family. Dad was in the Air Force, so he's been around not only just in the United States, but around countries. I know Philippines wanted to stop, so we'll get into that. But a guy I've been knowing, man, probably for 12, 13 years now. Like I said, we're in the same league, Michael Cotton, and I'll talk about him before we even bring him on. Talk about his background a little bit of his bio. He started off, finished high school in Arkansas, and then he went on and played at Oklahoma for his first 2 years before going to Boston College, graduating and playing, having a good career at Boston College for the 2 years playing for Al Skinner. And then from there, he gets into, after, finishing playing, still wanted to play. And as we were talking about before we even came on camera, how right before he was about to jump on the plane to go and play over in Europe, he decided to change his mind. And then probably that's where his career turned, because he probably got into something that he was passionate about. And sometimes you get called to do things. He started off coaching AAU basketball after doing real world stuff. He was working, AAU with Garner Road for a couple of years, and he's with the Carolina Cougars AAU for a couple of years, and then with the United Celtics as well for a year. And even during that time, he was a head coach at Bonner Academy in Carolina. He double dipped, and this is like very rare, so stick with me on this. He was at Carey Academy as an assistant varsity coach. He was the head JV coach, and at the same time, he was the head coach at Western Vance High School. So he kind of double dipped for those years. 2 years at Western Vance as the head coach. He spent 2 to 3 years at Carey Academy, and then he starts a program, Kestrel Heights. In 2007, 2008, where they had a tremendous amount of players there before jumping into the college ranks, where he spent 4 years at Bucknell University as an assistant coach. That's when I first had a chance to meet him. They did a tremendous job there with winning back-to-back, regular season championships. They went to the NCAA tournament, I think 2010, 11, because that was my first year at American. And then he goes to Rider University. So he's, at Jersey for a year before coming back to Carolina, where he was an assistant for 2 years at North Carolina Central with LaVelle Moulton. And then now he goes back, works for his former college coach, Al Skinner, as the associate head coach at Kennesaw State down in Georgia from 2015 to 2019. He actually had a chance to be the interim head coach for a little while. And then 2019 to 2021, fortunate, I thought he was going to be the next head coach at Kennesaw State. I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit. He ends up going back home, and he's coaching his son's middle school team, which I'm sure his son appreciated that. And then he was working for Athletes of Tomorrow, AOT, AAU program, established EYBL program out of Georgia. And then this year, I'm happy. One of the great guys is in this business. He comes back into the business. 2000, just a few months ago, he becomes an assistant coach at Austin Peay State University. So I'm happy to welcome to the show a guy whose resume is long. He's done a lot of great things in this profession. He's going to continue to do great things in the profession. I want to say welcome to the show, Mike.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, Lamar. Man, yes, I've been watching a few episodes, and you've been doing your thing, so I'm honored, man. I'm honored that you're taking the time to put me on.
Well, look, Mike, man, we're gonna jump right into it. We're gonna get unmasked. And one of the first questions I like to ask, um, you know, there's no handbook, man, to being a college coach. Tell me about the first day, first week, first month after things are done with human resources or with orientation, especially like no one gives you direction. Like you've had players, you've been through it as a player, but talk about like, man, you go to Bucknell for the first time and you kind of like thrown into it. Talk about that situation.
Well, yeah, man. Firstly, yeah, like because there's no handbook, you kind of got to figure it out. You kind of got to fall down and get up and brush yourself off and keep moving forward. You got to take some steps back and kind of reevaluate and understand where you went wrong and kind of correct it. But I was really fortunate, man. Like I was on a really, really good staff and I was working for a very, very good guy, right? And Dave Paulson gave me my shot in college coaching. And he was, he himself has a long, long resume, been at all different levels. And so I had a great kind of mentor, so to speak, and kind of guide me and to kind of put me on the right path and correct me when I was stepping off of it. And I think that was really, really helpful, man, in helping me, kind of get my footing in this business. Someone that's able to, hold you accountable and willing to, like you tell your players, like, there's someone that allowed me to play through mistakes. You know what I'm saying? Because I made a few of them early, and still stuck with me and corrected me and helped me along. So that was the first thing. That I was working for a great guy, and I was on a great staff with some other experienced guys that could kind of keep me on track. But yeah, no, it was tough because at the high school level and even at the grassroots level, like you feel like you have a thorough understanding of what this business is about. So I had to kind of get over that hurdle, like because I soon realized like I didn't know what I was doing, and I had to ask a lot of questions and humble myself. I'm normally a humble guy, but like realizing like, yo, man, like you really don't know you really don't know what you're doing, and tap into some guys that do. So those were my first days, man. Like just beating your head against the wall, thinking you know what you're doing, and then having to take some step backs and realize that, man, I need to get some questions answered so that I can be good at this thing.
Awesome, man. That's awesome. I'm glad you could share that with us. Recruiting, we all know that's the lifeline of college athletics, man. Like, you have to get good players. You need to get good people, and you want to get good students because in your case, you started off at Bucknell and you've been at a few different places, but you want to get good students, but they don't have to always be A students or, sometimes B students, but they need to be people who care about academics, who care about getting a degree, who care about going to class. Talk about your best and worst recruiting stories that you may have had over the years since, being in college coaching.
So with regard to like, with regard to like the whole academic piece and recruiting guys that, want to do the work and willing to do the work, again, I started off at a place where, you couldn't recruit bad students, right? Like, so, and like, I feel like there's a correlation oftentimes with, high academic students and they're because they want to do well in the classroom. That kind of translates to other aspects of your life as well. All right. But the real coaching to me, like so I'm talking about the coaching piece that where you use basketball to, help a kid understand the importance of academics. Right. And without saying any names, I've had some experience with some young men, and usually these dudes look like me and you. You know what I'm saying? Like, and they come from backgrounds where academics weren't stressed, and they've been kind of helped along, and oftentimes their perceived lack of intelligence isn't real. They just haven't had to do the work. And when you sit down with them and you get them in and you talk to them and you see that you see that change taking place, man, where freshman year, they were just doing enough to get by. And, but by the time they're juniors, they're no longer in that group that has to go to study hall. And they're, they've grown and shown that, I can be responsible not only for this stuff that we're doing on the hardwood, but I'm showing even more growth with what's happening in this classroom, more growth with what's happening in the community. And, those are the coaching stories, man. Those are the real reasons why, we kind of do this, especially at this stage when we get them, and they're in that transition into manhood, right? And a lot of times, very similar to how I was, when I got into the business, I thought I knew what I was doing, right? They think they know what they're doing when they get to college, right? They think that they know what it takes to be a man. They think they, have what it takes to be, responsible. And, they soon find out oftentimes that they don't. And then, it's great when it all comes together and they do show that growth.
So true, man. I mean, I'm listening to you, and I'm just thinking about going back to the things I've done. So you're 100% correct on a lot of on all of those things. And I asked this question because people don't understand. This job is not a seasonal job. It's not it's you put in a lot of time. Like you're spending 12, 15-hour days. So even when you try to go home, you kind of got to juggle that family time. Like you want to do everything, and then you wait for everybody to go to bed, and you still working, or you're making recruiting calls. So people don't understand it's all the time. You got to be on all the time. But answer this question: what did you have to sacrifice to achieve your current level of success? Because people have no idea the amount of time you put in the film and recruiting and all of that things. Talk about that.
It's like you hit the nail on the head already, man. It's time. That's what you're sacrificing, right? Like you're making a sacrifice on time, and it's, and as coaches, it's a willing sacrifice, right? You have to, really prioritize things, and it's for us as college coaches, it's family and then your job, right? Like so. Willing to, miss out on certain things, or just and people, and some people understand and some people don't. But that's the main thing, is just time. The time that we spend, the time that you put into this, you have to sacrifice time and in other things and other hobbies and other, oh, sorry, man. Been still too long in this office, but time to, with sacrificing time with your family at times, sacrificing time with like friends or even like former teammates. There's some instances where guys are getting married, but I can't attend the wedding because it's in the season, right? Like then but they understand, and those guys those people rather that are really for you and understand that you're willing to make the sacrifice. They'll be around, but it's tough. It's not easy. To miss out on some of those things. And, it's the biggest ones though, the ones that hurt the most are when you have to make sacrifices of the time that you would normally be able to spend with your family. Right. And being able to juggle that's the toughest thing about this business, but with any business. And, I've had these conversations with other coaches and even people out of the industry. They're in other fields, and mainly and one of them is my father, right? Because I look back on my childhood, and I thought that he was present. I thought that he was involved, and really it was because he was intentional, and he let me know that. He was like, man, like I miss so much just being in the military. Like I had to be away, like I had to travel, like he spent like 2 whole calendar years away from us. But I don't remember, I still look back on my childhood thinking that he was present. And, I'm hoping that in spite of my absence, right, in spite of the things that I've had to miss, that my kids can look back on their existence and, as children and say, yeah, my dad, though, yeah, he was away, but he was present. And it just takes some intention. You just got to be intentional about it.
Yeah, man. I'm like, man, you're dropping some knowledge over here, and I love it. Scout reports, because they are huge in this business as well. And you know for a fact, like, as hard as you work on those, you're watching 7, 8 games. You're coming up, you're implementing the game plan along with the head coach. So you're throwing him ideas. But you also got to be able to relay it to the players and not realize, like, you can't give them too much information. Because if you give them too much, it's going to be an overload. And a lot of times, too much, we always say less is more. But you got to make sure you give them the right amount of information and not overkill. And then we also know, like, you got that coach that when you are, you'll say, coach, kid is struggling shooting. He's 4 for his last 25 from 3, and you'll and he makes his first 2, and coach is turning and looking at you like, you told me he couldn't shoot.
Yeah,
I didn't say that. I said he was struggling.
Yeah.
But talk about your best and worst scout reports over the years. There's been so many. Like, talk about those best and worst scout reports you may have had.
Oh man, so gosh, like, I'm gonna tell you what's crazy, man. Is like some of the best best jobs I feel like I've done on scouting reports end in losses, right? And then some of the scouting reports that I thought I did, I wish I had done better. We ended up winning. So a lot of times, man, as coaches, we kind of, and this is one of the things I learned from Coach Skinner. Like, a lot of the times as coaches, we put a whole lot of stock into like kind of what we're doing, and instead of focusing more on your principles and like those things that are going to keep your team prepared, right? As opposed to like which plays they're running, which out of bounds sets they're going to run, what their tendencies are, after timeouts, offensively and defense, like all of that stuff, like, is great and it's essential, right, for us as coaches to be prepared. But the team is best prepared, and from your shell drills, and and understanding like just your offensive principles and your defensive principles, and how to exploit certain different things that you don't have to put in a scouting report. So, but when I think this was my last year, our last year at Kennesaw, we were playing in that tournament in Puerto Rico. And our first draw was Missouri and Coach Martin's team. And man, like, I felt like the team was prepared, like we knew what was coming front was, and and the guys played their tails off for 39 minutes. And we had a chance to tie the game or take the lead, and we ended up turning the basketball over down the stretch. We were ahead most of the game, but like, and I really think that set the tone for the rest of the year, unfortunately, right? Like, for the rest of that season, we were close, and I couldn't really get over the hump. But I really feel like had we been able to pull that one off, it could have changed the trajectory of the year. So that one's tough, but I thought I did a really, really good job on that scouting report. For a bad one, well, and again, this is going back to being a young coach, and I hopefully a younger coach will have a little bit more, like go get them than I did in this situation. This is when I was at Bucknell, and we were playing. It was my scout. We were playing Delaware. Right, we were playing Delaware, and very similar to what we were talking about, like earlier. Like, Paulson did a great job of preparing me to be successful later in my career. And one of the things that, as coaches, as individuals, not even as coaches, just as people, it's important for us to always, remain confident in your abilities, despite what's going on. So tight game, it's like a possession here, possession there. The game can go either way. It's a home game. This is either our my first or second year with Dave, and it's a timeout, and we huddle as a coaching staff a few seconds before, And he asking for ideas or thoughts or what have you. So everyone's firing at him, and it's my scout, and I'm just like, Coach, this is the play that's coming. I quickly tell him, like, it's a ball screen, back screen. They're gonna look for the lob. Like, he's like, okay, I got it. And he goes into the huddle. He's trying to tell him what's coming, and he mistook the play for another ball screen play and what I didn't do in the moment was correct him, right? Because I'm thinking, like, no, like, they may run that, right? Firstly, they may run that. Secondly, I don't want to, like, chop the head coach's legs off in front of the team, be like, nah, that's the wrong damn play, man. This is the one, and take the pen and kind of draw it up. And sure enough, they ran the ball screen, back screen, got a lob dunk. I think they ended up winning the game. But if I could do it over again, I may have taken that second option and just like, nah, this is what's coming. Like, this is what's coming. This is what we need to do. And I'm sure, like, looking back, Paulson wouldn't have minded, right? Because it may have saved us that possession and ended up winning us a game.
Wow, that's good stuff. Like you say, you learn from it, and like you said, if you had to do that all over again, you definitely would do it. And that's the biggest thing, learning from what your mistake was, or and that's the biggest thing. I'm glad you said it to these young guys, like, who are listening, like, don't be afraid to say it. That's something you wish you could get back. But I like to ask, biggest challenge you think you've experienced since you became a college coach?
That's a tough one. Biggest challenge, because there's so many. I think we kind of touched on it briefly, just that work-life balance, right? Like, that is the toughest thing, because there's only so much time in a day, right? And there's so much that needs to be done, with this job, right? But you also have, people at home, when you're a father, that didn't ask to be here, right? That you're responsible for. And yes, providing for them through your profession is really, really important. It's really, really essential, right? You got to have lights on, got to be able to put food on the table. But you also got to be able to pour into them outside of that, right? And spend some time with them. And, so balancing that, right? Balancing, like we talked about, when to make those time sacrifices is really, really important. Balancing, when to, maybe take a little blow at the job because, you missed something important at work, so that you can put a smile on your kid's face, right? And it's also important, like, when you're an assistant coach, to have these conversations, with your head coach, in the interview process, right? So to kind of get an understanding of, like, yo, is what's okay and what isn't, what the expectation is, and so that you can know and be honest with him and yourself if you can really live up to it. So, like, that's the biggest challenge to me. But my kids I got a daughter in college. I got one that's a junior in high school, one that's a freshman in high school. So I'm kind of looking at the light at the end of the tunnel. So pretty soon I'm not gonna have that issue. It's gonna be something else I got to balance.
I feel you on that. Do you ever? Because like I said, I've watched you, I've seen you. I kind of, know what type of guy you are and how your work ethic is unbelievable, and the things you do. You come in, you're about business. When you're evaluating, do you find that there are things about you that people may misunderstand? What are
they? Yeah, I mean, not really. Like, I don't put a, maybe I don't put a whole lot of stock, honestly, right, into, what people think of me, especially if it's, like you said, a misunderstanding or a misconception. I think the people that matter know, and I think, because, like, I pride myself in, being humble, being professional, and having a diligent work ethic, right? So if, and you can't please everybody. And like, so why try? Like, I am more focused on, doing the right thing and being in the right place and making sure that I'm doing what's asked of me, and trying to outperform my job duties so that I can continue to move forward. Like, that's my goal. It's not to please anyone. It's to serve these student athletes that I'm responsible for.
Loved it, love it. You probably stole. You probably answered one of my questions. We're gonna come back to that later on. But
Right.
what would you? We're all educators, and I like to say you kind of threw it out there. You used the word servant, which was something I love. That's what the people I love bringing on this show is selfless people and people who serve. But like, what do you try to teach or educate to your players besides basketball?
Oh man, it's so much, right? Like, it's so much because yeah, we're coaches, right? We're college basketball coaches, and our focus is in building a team to win at this sport, right? But in the process of doing that, man, like the more important piece is building quality men, right? Is helping these 17, 18-year-olds to transition from being a young man to a grown man. And so all of those lessons that come with that, like respect, being respectful, right? Respecting like yourself, uh, respecting like your partners in your relationships, respecting like your professors, respecting everyone, right? Like being a respectful person, right? Is really, really important that we teach that to a lot of these young men, because again, like there are plenty of examples of disrespect, and that can be the norm for some of these guys. A lot of times they don't know how they don't have a positive example of how to relate to women, right? Because a lot of times some of these kids are coming from situations where it's a single parent, usually a mother, and and they don't have a positive like example of how men are supposed to act or treat women, right? So that's important to me to make sure that these guys do know that. And and especially in athletics, and you in locker rooms, you hear it all the time. And Lou Rowe and I, we worked together at Ryder, and I kind of picked this up from him. I used to let that stuff slide. Like they're young, and this is when you kind of do those things. But Lou was like, "Nah, man, like you guys, like as coaches, we got to do a better job of like instilling in these guys the importance of like in relationships. You don't need a whole bunch of these. You need a whole bunch of girls, man. Like you need to treat these young ladies like you want someone to treat your mother, like you want someone to treat your sister. And if you can honestly say you cool with somebody treating your mama like that, then go right on ahead. And that hits home. You know what I'm saying? They're like, whoa. But that's what they see. They see these dudes bouncing around from woman to woman. They want to talk about how many they can do this and do this, that, and two. And no, that's not what's real, and that's not what's good, and that's not what helps the community. So that's important to me. Finances, right? Like we, get kids in that, that Pell Grant is a game changer to them, man. Like, and they'll have every pair of Jordans,
tattoos, earrings.
Absolutely, man.
Jordan
like,
tattoos.
Yeah.
We know how. That's how it is.
Absolutely, and then, but then, come Christmas time, they struggling to get home. You know what I'm saying? And it's trying to teach them the importance of budgeting. Like, listen, man, like, yeah, you get this check now, but this you got to think about, like, this got to last you, for a spell, right? Like, so you can't blow this money right now. But trying to teaching them the importance of that, and that's I mean, getting them a saving, a checking account instead of, what I'm saying? Like, it's all of this, like all of these things that are gonna help them, be better prepared for life when they leave us, right? I think those are most important.
you're 100% right. And I forgot to leave out ear pods. It used to be Beat headphones, but we know how,
Yeah, the
you know how it
Beats,
is,
and then
man.
what was it was one pair of jeans, man. It was so a few years back, all the kids had to have like these like $300 pair of jeans. I forget what they were. True
Crazy
Religion, that's
how
what it was. The True Religion denim. Yeah, everybody had
it's,
to have them.
it's crazy how they just spend money, man. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable. And I like this because I get a laugh. Sometimes people they think about these things like, what is the strangest thing a player has done outside of the basketball court? Because like you know, one of those ones is like, man, did he really do this? Or I just can't believe it. And they're young kids, and
Yeah.
they mistakes they make, but you just sit there and like, I can't believe this kid just did that.
So outside of it, there's so many, right? There's so many weird things outside of a basketball court. Weird things outside of basketball. Well, man, like there's yeah, so maybe this counts. There was one, we had a kid who um, transferred to us. We transferred into the school. This is really, really weird. Reach out to the coach, to the school that the head coach of the school that he transferred from, to try to schedule the game for us.
That's weird. He reached out.
Yeah, didn't ask anyone. Didn't talk to us. Didn't talk, like, just like, yeah, trying to get a game. Hey, what's up with that game, coach? Yeah.
Wow. That is weird. I never heard that one before.
Yeah.
That was definitely weird. What you think? What's the biggest accomplishment you've experienced since you been a college coach? Because a lot of times people, like, they get accomplishment where, oh, we went to the NCAA, or it could be that, or it could be, a kid graduating that you didn't think had a chance. But what do you think your biggest accomplishment if you've experienced since you've been a coach?
Yeah, that's it. So like on the floor, that's, it's always great to, cut down the nets. And I've been fortunate to be able to do that a few times in my career thus far. And those are great. Those feel really, really good. But the real wins, man, honestly, are, helping the kid overcome themselves oftentimes, right? Like the and kids that really don't believe that they have what it takes, usually off the floor, like, but it's great to see that that CD student become a BC student, and that leave with a degree. And it's often like it changes the trajectory of a lot of these kids' lives. And I don't take responsibility for it, but it feels like I'm really, really like winning at this thing, because I'm Facebook friends, right, with a lot of my former players. And when I get on the social media and I see that they're married with families and being productive in the community, like the guys at Bucknell and at Ryder, and seeing how they're, and even at Central, right, like seeing how they're transitioning into life. I've been invited to some weddings, and it's those are the wins to me, man, because you see, you've coached them, man, like these kids that don't come from much, and they struggle, and and it's the social things that they struggle with, because they're coming from an environment where a lot of the norms that are normal on a college campus aren't the norms where they come from. A lot of the way that you speak, the way that you handle business, being on time and on task, like those things that we kind of take for granted. Like, they weren't raised in that type of environment, man. And then to see them come to college learn some life lessons through sport, and then carry that on and apply it, after their time with you. Man, those are the real wins.
So true, man. That's so true. Um, and I like, what movie or TV show title best describes your week? It could be your month, or like what describes you like, man, this actually is what my life is about when I'm involved with coaching. Like what movie or TV show title?
Um, Movie or TV show title. Let me think about this one. It's an old TV show. I believe it was a cop show, like In the Heat of the Night. Is that what? Wasn't that one?
Yeah, that was one based out of
Yeah.
Georgia too, I believe.
Say it again.
I think it was based out of Georgia.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that one makes that's the title because you know what I'm saying. Like, especially when you have kids, man, you get a whole lot of work done after they go to bed. Right? You get a whole lot of work done when everyone else is asleep. The house is quiet, but I still got to finish the scout, or I got whatever the tasks are. I got games to watch. I got emails to catch up on. I got some all of that stuff. Like, so, I would say that. That's a good question, though. That's a good question. This is that question, man, where 2 days from now, I'm be like, man, I should have said, this is that one.
I love it. What's your favorite word or phrase that you like to use? I mean, you've been around Coach Skinner, so I'm sure you picked up on some stuff with him, or you might have picked up on some other people, but what's your favorite word or phrase?
My favorite one, man, is there's no substitute for the work. Like, there's no substitute for the word, because I think it's applicable in almost everything that you do. I could tell a kid that about, why his shooting percentage isn't where it needs to be. I could tell a kid that, because, his grades aren't where they need to be. His relationships aren't where they need to be. Like, I think, that's the main thing. Like, it's if we can get kids, and I think that's our one of our goals as coaches. We have a ton of them, but if we can get kids to thoroughly understand the importance of a work ethic, and how to apply that in every aspect of their life, right? Then I think we're winning, right? And so that's mine. Like, there's no substitute for the work. Like, you got to put that work in if you want to see meaningful results.
That's a great one right there. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
You know what? Like, there's so many. Man. Like, so my I'll say this, especially now, it's even more applicable with how the college sports landscape is changing. With these new NIL rules, and and it's also something that it was advice given to me, but I don't think I put it to proper use. My wife's people. So my wife is from Arkansas, and I don't know if it was her grandparents or something, but like the saying is, or the advice rather is, it's a sad dog that won't wag its own tail. Right. So sometimes, like, you got to promote yourself. Sometimes you got to be willing to speak on, like, your accomplishments, and speak on, some of the things that you're doing. Speak on your successes. No, I think I do a good job of that for my kids. I do a good job of promoting them. I do a good job of promoting, my family. I don't know if I'll ever be good at promoting myself, but if I can give that advice to someone else, especially someone young in this business, to do a proper job of that, do a proper job of, just, highlighting some of the things that you're doing well, tastefully, right? Like no one wants to, just to be a braggadocious or like always, only that can't be the only thing that you do. But in certain times, it's good, it's cool to, no, I'm pretty good at that, right? Like I've done that before, and this is the example of, how I was successful doing it.
Well, it's interesting. I think you read my questions over here because this leads right into my next question. Because that's the one thing I was going to say about you is you're not a self promoter, right?
Right.
So that's something you've never done for yourself. But if you had to choose three adjectives to describe yourself, which would you choose? You kind of said some things earlier, but
Yeah.
what three adjectives would you choose? Because I'm giving you a chance now. But what three adjectives would you choose to describe yourself?
Well, that would be it, man. Let's just like, professional, like intentional. Like those are two that I kind of pride myself on, and then just be a diligent worker, man. Like I'm not always um, I'm not always the loudest or the most boisterous or but like I'm quietly doing my thing on the low, and I'll uh, I'll meet you there. If I don't beat you there, I'll meet you there.
I like that. I like that. And I like those. Those are three great. Um, what person and or event has had the most influence on your life?
Um, Man, like
Got two. I'm sure you got a couple. Because
yeah, it's more than one. Like I will say this, I can't say just one person, right? I've been really, really blessed to have some great men in my life, right? Like so I've had great examples of manhood, like from from since I got here. My father's an awesome dude, and he was always willing to make sacrifices for his family, and my grandfather was the same way. Super 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 cool dude, and like both of my grandfathers, neither of them, neither of them made it out of middle school, right? But were able to provide a strong life. I have aunts and uncles who, went on to be professionals and doctors and nurses and just, my father chose to go to the military, but like their fathers, and that's not atypical, right? That's not atypical for people in our community. But and then I've had some amazing coaches. I was fortunate enough to have two extremes, both great coaches in their own right, but two extremes as my college coaches, right? Kelvin Sampson wins everywhere he goes, right? He's going to squeeze every drop out of every player. He's going to demand that you're tough and you're never going to lose a toughness battle when you're playing for Coach Sampson. And Coach Skinner's on the other end of it. Like, yeah, you're gonna be tough, you're gonna do all, but he ain't gonna grind on you, and he's gonna be like, yo, my goal is simple. My goal is to put you in a position to win, and if you can win, you're gonna play. If you can't, I got somebody that does. That's who's gonna play. All right, but he is gonna allow your ability to push through more so than than Coach Sampson. But both are great coaches in their own right. So I've had those two men in my life, right? My high school coach, I've had, so I think all of that has really kind of helped and molded me into, kind of the coach that I am and the person that I am and the man that I am. And I'm blessed because of it.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm gonna ask you just before the last question is because people have different terms. Like, what does success mean to you? Like, I know a lot of times people get caught up in wins and losses, but what does success mean to you?
Yeah, like so success to me, man, to me it's one of those things um that's it's it kind of it's related to, you know, what you're measured against, right? So I think success is a measurement for us as individuals and for, for people that have influence over our ascension in whatever field that we're in, right? So, like you said, wins and losses are important in coaching, right? Like, like people lose jobs because of it. You say what you want about, you know, you know, all these other things that are important, like APR and like how involved you are in the community. But like, you got to also win basketball games in order to stay employed, right? You got to win recruiting battles to stay employed, right? So winning is really, really important. That's a good measure of success. I mean, that's a good measure of success. But it's also, man, like how you measure, like what's important to you, right? What's important to you as an individual is equally as important, right? Like, so you can gauge your own success. Some people, and here's the other thing, man. And here's the thing that, as I get older, I start to get a better understanding of this. Like, it doesn't matter how you gauge your success. Just be honest about it and go after it. Like, some people are really, really motivated by money, but they're scared to say it. Like, if that's what you do, like if that's what motivates you, by all means, be unapologetic and just go get it, man. Like, I am instead, like, I want to be measured, and I measure myself. I can care less, like I said, what other people think. I want to be measured about my impact on other people's lives, right? I am, again, I know my life is going to be based around serving others, and I really think that's important. I taught school. I've, I've, I'm coaching. Like, those are the things where I'm like trying to give and push people forward when I need to, right? Be behind them, pushing them forward when I need to, and also be in front of some and pulling them along when I need to, right? Like, but the goal is to continue to help others in their progression, and that's how I measure my own success, right?
That's awesome, and that's deep as well. And I like to end with this question because it kind of takes you back, and some people don't change what they thought, but like, knowing what you know now, what would you tell your young self or younger self, like how to prepare to be one assistant coach, and then like, what are you doing to possibly put yourself in a position to be a head coach? What would you talk to your younger self
Man, like, I spent a lot of time as a young coach, especially not like when I got into this business. I spent a lot of time trying to compare, my path to someone else's, right? And you get into trouble when you do that. Like we all have our own path, and honestly, man, like, I would love to be, a head coach at the Division I level. Love it. Like, I would love to be able to do that. I had a taste of it. I got to coach one game at Kennesaw State, and it was, it was an amazing experience. I loved it. I loved, being able to run the practices. I love being able to call the shots. I love being able to call timeouts. Like, it was an amazing experience, right? And I would love to be able to do it again. But if I don't, you know what I mean? That doesn't mean I'm going to stop serving through coaching, right? Like, I also coached middle school ball for 2 years and had a blast doing it. You understand what I'm saying? Didn't get paid a quarter, but loved it, And you can't tell me that those middle schoolers weren't as into it. Those games weren't as important to those middle schools as it was to those other kids that I coach at the collegiate level. Like, right? Like, so and when you boil it down to, the bare bones of it, man, like it's that's what I would tell myself. Like, dude, like, just do what you're doing and love what you're doing, be thoroughly immersed into it, like, go hard at it, but just focus on being, like, you hear it all the time, grow where you're planted, right? Like, don't be so concerned with what this other guy is getting or what this other guy is doing, or, you're more experienced than them, and like, how are they getting this opportunity and you're not? Like, it's like, your path is your path. Just be, put some blinders on and only focus on, on what you're doing, and try to move that and work that and move that product forward. The rest will come.
That is all facts right there, man. Well, look, Mike, I want to thank you again for being a guest on the show and being unmasked. Anything you want to leave with the viewers before we go?
Nah, man, just like thank you, man. Like this is an amazing platform. Like I've coached against you, recruited against you, and I've done and we've never had ill words with each other. Like it's always like, yo, man, like can't believe y'all got that kid and we didn't, or man, like those battles when we were when at Bucknell and American. And it's always good to be in the presence of good people, right? And and cut this if it's a little too personal, man. But I was really upset with when things came down at the end, and when you transition to what you're doing now, what led to that? Like I didn't think that was cool at all. But like I've always been told, and I truly and firmly believe that good things happen to good people. And I'm so glad that you landed on your feet, and then you created this to give guys like you in the business a voice. So this is really, really dope, man. And continued success. And if there's anything I can do to further assist, man, like don't hesitate to reach out.
Appreciate that, man, and I appreciate you. Like you talked about the battles, and one thing about it, I called you or reached out to you, checked on you when things weren't good, or you did the same thing. So it's always, it's always been that's a relationship. People don't understand. Like you may not, some people reach out to you because they want to be nosy, but genuine people in this profession. So I really appreciate you for for everything. But I want to thank the viewers, like I said, for watching another great show. Stay tuned for the next guest as we get them unmasked. See you next time and stay safe.